The moment your paycheck hits your bank account, you have exactly 15 seconds before your brain starts making every wrong financial decision possible. And I am not exaggerating about that number. 15 seconds is genuinely all it takes for most people to mentally spend money they have not even touched yet. Your brain starts doing the math on that new gadget you have been eyeing. How many takeout orders you can squeeze into the next 2 weeks, or whether you can finally justify buying those shoes that have been sitting in your online cart since last Tuesday. But here is what I want you to sit with for a second. What if those same 15 seconds could be the exact thing that separates you from staying financially stuck and actually building real lasting wealth? What if there was a straightforward routine you could run every single time you get paid that would automatically put you ahead of 90% of people when it comes to money? My name is Nick, and I have spent years working with people on exactly this problem. Figuring out what to actually do with your money the moment it shows up in your account, because that moment matters more than most people ever realize. And here is something I will add that most financial channels will never say out loud. The way you handle the first 24 hours after getting paid is more important than any investment strategy you will ever learn. If you are tired of watching your paycheck disappear and you want to actually build something real with your income, then subscribe and hit like, because what we are covering today is the kind of stuff that changes the trajectory of your financial life. Here is something that will probably shock you. The average person has genuinely no idea what happens to their money after payday. They know rent gets paid somehow, food shows up in the kitchen, streaming subscriptions keep renewing, but beyond that, it is complete financial chaos. They are basically sleepwalking through their financial life, wondering why there is never anything left at the end of the month. The real problem is that most people treat their paycheck like a surprise birthday gift instead of the powerful wealth-building tool it actually is. They get excited when it arrives, burn through most of it on things they do not need, and then spend the next 2 weeks eating cereal for dinner and obsessively checking their bank balance every few hours. Successful people operate completely differently. They have a system. They have a routine that kicks in the second that money hits their account. It is not flashy, it will not go viral on social media, but it works so consistently that once you build it into your life, you will never manage money any other way. The core insight behind all of this is understanding that your paycheck is not just money you earned, it is your future financial freedom broken down into monthly pieces. Every single dollar coming into your account is either going to build towards something real or disappear into the void of mindless spending. And the difference between those two outcomes is almost entirely about what system you have in place. Most people handle their finances in completely the wrong order. They pay their bills, buy whatever catches their attention, and then try to save whatever happens to be left over. And the spoiler here is that there is never anything left over. It is the same as trying to fill a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom and then being confused about why it stays empty. The people who actually build wealth reverse this entire process. They pay themselves first. They assign every dollar a job before it has a chance to disappear, and they build systems that make their money work as hard as they do. The real truth that most people miss is that financial success is not about earning more money, even though more income definitely helps. It is about having a system that functions no matter what your income level is. Think about it this way. If you earn $50,000 a year and consistently save and invest 10% of it, you are going to end up in far better financial shape than someone making $100,000 a year and spending every cent they bring in. The person with the lower income and the working system will retire comfortably. The higher earner without a system will still be grinding at 80, wondering where it all went. This brings us to the actual foundation of what we are doing today. Before you can start building wealth, you need to know with complete precision where every dollar of your money is going. Not a rough guess, not a vague sense of your big expenses, a real clear picture of how each dollar gets used. The first move in this paycheck routine sounds simple, but most people skip it entirely and it costs them massively. You need to figure out exactly what percentage of your income is going toward genuine necessities. And I mean real necessities. Housing costs like rent or your mortgage, food that actually keeps you alive, basic transportation to get to work, essential utilities, and healthcare. What does not belong on that list is your premium cable package, the gym membership collecting digital dust, or the 7 streaming subscriptions you rotate through. Those things might feel essential in the moment, but they are not keeping you alive. Here is where people consistently get this wrong. They look at their spending and convince themselves almost everything qualifies as a necessity. The oversized car payment becomes essential transportation. The daily coffee shop run becomes necessary fuel for productivity. The weekly restaurant meals become required social bonding. But here is the honest reality check that most people need to hear. If more than 60% of your take-home pay is going toward what you are calling necessities, you are either living somewhere too expensive for your current income, or you are labeling things as needs because it is more comfortable than admitting they are wants. Let me give you a real-world example to make this concrete. Imagine someone earning $75,000 a year. After taxes, they are bringing home roughly $4,750 each month. If their rent is $1,800, their car payment is $400, and they spend $500 on food, they are already at $2,700 in monthly expenses. That is about 57% of take-home pay, which is actually reasonable for someone in a higher cost area. But here is where it gets interesting. That same person might genuinely feel like they are barely making it, especially once you layer in streaming services, regular restaurant meals, daily coffee runs, and all the small purchases that feel harmless on their own but stack up to hundreds of dollars every month. Being completely honest about what you actually need versus what you simply want is one of the most financially powerful habits you can develop. Your future depends on making that distinction clearly and consistently. Once you know your true necessity percentage, you will know exactly how much is available for everything else. And everything else is where your financial life actually gets built. The second critical step in this routine happens before you even think about spending money on anything optional. You need to make sure you are current on every debt payment you carry. This is not about wiping out all your debt overnight, even though that is a worthy long-term goal. This is about protecting your credit score and avoiding late fees that quietly destroy financial progress. Your credit score is essentially your financial reputation, and in the way our economy works, that reputation touches nearly everything. It determines the interest rate on a mortgage, whether you qualify for a solid car loan, and sometimes whether you can even rent an apartment or land certain jobs. Here is something about credit scores that catches most people off guard. The difference between excellent credit and damaged credit often comes down to a single missed payment. If you make 99% of your payments on time, that is considered solid. Drop to 97% on time and your score takes a serious hit. In school, 97% is an A+. In credit scoring, it gets you labeled as high risk. The credit system is unforgiving, but the rules are simple. Make your minimum payments on time every single time, and your credit score handles itself. This step is not exciting and it will not make you feel wealthy, but it is the foundation everything else gets built on top of. Now that we have covered the foundation, it is time to talk about something most people ignore until they absolutely cannot anymore: building an emergency fund. I already know this sounds about as thrilling as watching paint cure in a cold garage, but stay with me, because this might genuinely be the most important piece of your entire financial strategy. An emergency fund is exactly what it sounds like. It is money set aside specifically for when life decides to go sideways on you. And life will go sideways. Your car breaks down the morning before your most important meeting, your laptop dies right in the middle of a deadline, your dog eats something at 2 in the morning that requires an emergency vet visit. These things happen to everyone, and they always happen at the worst possible time. The goal is to have 3 to 6 months of your living expenses parked in an account you can access immediately, not tied up in the stock market where it could lose value the moment you need it most, not locked inside a certificate of deposit with penalties for early withdrawal, just sitting in a straightforward savings account ready to protect you when everything goes wrong at once. Going back to our earlier example, if someone's monthly necessities run $2,700, their emergency fund target should land somewhere between $8,000 and $16,000. That might sound like an overwhelming amount, especially if you are currently living paycheck to paycheck, but the key is that you are not trying to save it all at once. You are building it steadily over time with each paycheck routine. And here is the part about emergency funds that nobody really talks about. It is not just about having the cash, it is about what that cash does to your mindset. When you have 3 to 6 months of expenses sitting in a savings account, you sleep differently at night. You carry yourself differently at work because you know that if your job disappeared tomorrow, you are not eating ramen in your car next month. The psychological value of that security is hard to put a number on, but it is real, and it changes how you make decisions in every area of your life. Where most people get this wrong is thinking their emergency fund needs to be earning strong returns. So they put it into risky assets or lock it up somewhere they cannot access quickly. Then, when a real emergency hits, the money is either worth less than they put in or inaccessible without penalties. Your emergency fund needs to be liquid and boring. A high-yield savings account that is government insured is exactly the right place for it. You are not trying to grow this money. You are trying to keep it stable and available when everything else falls apart. Once that emergency fund is in place, you have officially moved out of financial survival mode and into wealth-building mode. This is where things start to feel different and where most people begin seeing real momentum toward their goals. Step 4 is where you begin investing for your future self and where compound interest starts working in your favor rather than against you. If your employer offers any kind of retirement plan with matching contributions, that needs to be your absolute first investing priority. Think about employer matching this way. What if your boss came to you every single month and said, "I will give you free money right now as long as you put some of your own money into a retirement account"? You would probably think they had lost their mind. But that is exactly what employer matching is. It is free money that millions of Americans leave sitting on the table because they do not understand how powerful it actually is. Say your company matches 3% of your salary and you are earning $60,000 a year. That means if you contribute $1,800 annually to your retirement account, your employer matches it with another $1,800. You just doubled your money before a single investment had time to grow. Find another investment that guarantees a 100% return on day one. Beyond the employer match, you should be aiming to invest around 10% of your gross income for retirement. That might feel like a stretch when you are just starting out, but remember, this money is working across decades. The earlier you start, the less you actually need to put in each month to hit your retirement number. Here is a number that should light a fire under you. Someone who starts investing $300 a month at 25 years old with an average annual return of 8% will have around $1 million by 65. Someone who waits until 35 to start investing this same $300 a month will have roughly $400,000 at retirement. That 10-year delay costs them around $600,000. Time is not just money when it comes to investing. Time is the single most powerful variable in the entire equation, and every month you wait to start is a compounding loss you cannot get back. And here's what I see all the time with people who want to start investing. They overthink it so completely that they never actually begin. They spend months comparing funds and analyzing expense ratios and reading about market conditions as if they need a finance degree to open a brokerage account. The truth is, for most people, a simple, diversified index fund tracking the overall stock market is more than adequate to build serious wealth over time. You do not need to pick individual stocks. You do not need to time the market. You do not need to outsmart professional fund managers. You just need to start putting money in consistently and let compound interest do what it does. Once your retirement investing is running on autopilot, it is time to address any debt outside of your mortgage. This can get emotionally heavy because debt often represents past mistakes or situations that were genuinely out of your control. There are two main strategies for paying off debt, and both of them work when you actually commit to one. The first is the avalanche method, where you attack the highest interest rate debt first. Mathematically, this saves you the most money in total interest paid over time. The second is the snowball method, where you pay off your smallest balances first, regardless of interest rate. It is not the most mathematically optimal path, but it builds momentum fast because you start seeing debts disappear quickly, and that motivation carries you forward. I personally lean toward the snowball method because personal finance has always been more about psychology than pure math. If knocking out your smallest debt first keeps you energized and moving, then that is the right strategy for you, even if it costs a little extra in interest. The key is to pick one approach and stick with it completely. Do not flip between methods halfway through. Do not ignore the debt, hoping it will sort itself out. Just pick your lane and stay in it until it is gone. After you have locked in your employer retirement match and you are making consistent progress on debt, you can start looking at additional investment accounts. A Roth retirement account is especially attractive here because every dollar of growth inside it is completely tax-free. You contribute money you have already paid taxes on, and when you retire and start pulling from it, you owe nothing on the growth. It is like planting a tree today and never having to pay taxes on a single piece of fruit it produces for the rest of your life. The contribution limits on these accounts shift annually, but the core idea stays the same. You invest already taxed money, and in exchange, you never share the gains with the government. For investment accounts outside of retirement plans, the tax picture is different. You will pay capital gains taxes when you sell investments for a profit, and the rate depends on how long you held the position. Hold for more than a year and you qualify for lower long-term capital gains rates. Hold for less than a year and you pay regular income tax rates on the gains. This is exactly why wealthy investors think in years and decades rather than days and weeks. They are building wealth steadily while keeping what they pay in taxes as low as legally possible. The final step that ties this entire routine together is also the most important one, and it is the step that separates people who actually accumulate wealth from people who only talk about it. You need to automate every single piece of what we just covered. Here is the honest truth about willpower. It depletes throughout the day like a battery that does not fully recharge. You might wake up on Monday morning fired up to handle your money perfectly, but by Thursday evening, when you are exhausted from work and dealing with everything life is throwing at you, that motivation is gone completely. You will look at your account balance and tell yourself you will move money to savings next week when things settle down. And the spoiler is that next week, things do not settle down. This is exactly why automation is not optional. It is the whole game. When your money moves according to a preset plan, it does not matter whether you are motivated or burned out, whether you are having the best week of your life or barely holding it together. The allocation happens because you built the system, and the system does not have emotions. Here is how I personally run this, and you can take this exact framework and make it yours. When my paycheck clears, I let it sit in checking for 1 day. Not because the money needs time, but because I want to make sure everything processes cleanly before transfers start moving. Then, the day after, payday automatic transfers fire off like clockwork. A set amount moves to savings. From there, other automatic moves go to specific goals. Maybe a portion goes to my emergency fund if I am still building it. Maybe some flows into investment accounts. Maybe a separate amount goes toward a tax savings account if you are self-employed. The beautiful part of this whole setup is that I never have to think about it. I never have to remember to move money. I never have to fight the urge to spend money that belongs to my future. It just moves automatically the same way my rent payment does. But here is where people wreck their automation after they set it up. They get a raise and keep saving the same dollar amount instead of adjusting upward. They pay off a debt and forget to redirect that freed up monthly payment toward investments. They set it and completely forget to update it as their financial life changes. Automation is not a set it and forget it thing forever. It is a system you review and adjust as your income and goals evolve. This paycheck routine is not complicated, it is not advanced, but it works because most people never actually run one. Start treating your money like the wealth building tool it genuinely is instead of like play money that showed up and needs to be spent. Automate everything you can, stay consistent with the plan. And 5 years from now, you will look back at how simple it actually was while everyone around you is still wondering where their paycheck disappeared to every month.